The fog blanketed the forgotten town like a shroud, muffling all sound and hiding its secrets. Mystery, Inc. pulled up to the decrepit cinema that loomed in the center of the desolate streets. Fred exited the van first, his confident stride cutting through the eerie stillness. Daphne followed, pausing to inspect the shattered windows, their jagged shards glinting faintly. Velma adjusted her glasses and squinted at faded posters lining the building's exterior. One title leapt out from the rest, The Final Act. It seemed almost alive in the dim light, the bold font vibrating with an energy only she could sense. Shaggy and Scooby lingered near the van, whispering about the ominous vibes the building. The group pushed open the cinema's creaking double doors, stepping into a cavernous, silent lobby. Dust motes swirled in the pale light filtering through broken windows. The scent of mildew and decay filled the air, mixing with something inexplicably metallic. Velma paused, scanning the room's details. Faded wallpaper peeling from the walls, a box office littered with crumpled tickets, and a faint hum that seemed to resonate from deep within the building. "This place feels alive," she muttered, but the others barely noticed her words. Fred led them into the main auditorium, where time had seemingly frozen. Cobwebs draped over rows of velvet seats, their once rich red now dulled to brown. The towering projection screen at the far end loomed ominously, its surface pristine despite the decay around it. Daphne pointed to the ancient projector high above in the booth, but before anyone could move, the soft whirring of film spinning broke the silence. The group turned to the screen, which flickered to life, casting ghostly light over the room. The images displayed were abstract and chaotic, fragments of a film none of them recognized. Velma sprinted toward the projection booth, only to find it empty. She scanned the room, but there was no sign of recent activity. Yet the projector kept running, its reel spinning as though powered by unseen hands. "This shouldn't be possible," she murmured, her scientific mind struggling to rationalize what she was seeing. Shaggy and Scooby clung to each other, their nerves fraying as the eerie atmosphere deepened. "Like, I told you this place was bad news," Shaggy muttered, his eyes darting to every shadow. Fred suggested splitting up to investigate the strange occurrences. Daphne and Fred ventured into a side room that appeared to be an office. Dusty film reels were stacked precariously on every surface, and an old typewriter sat on the desk, its ribbons still inked as though waiting for its next story. Among the clutter, Daphne discovered a faded map pinned to the wall. It outlined the cinema's layout, including several hidden passageways leading to a basement. Velma joined them moments later, holding a worn diary she had found in another pile of reels. The entries chronicled the descent of a filmmaker into madness, consumed by the idea of creating films so immersive they would blur the line between reality and fiction. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby wandered into a storage room, their fear momentarily replaced by hunger. They rummaged through old crates in search of snacks, but instead found boxes ominously labeled dangerous. Scooby barked uneasily, but Shaggy's curiosity got the better of him. When they opened one box, a wave of shadows poured out, coalescing into forms that writhed like living creatures. The pair bolted from the room, their screams echoing through the halls. Back in the auditorium, the ghostly figure of a man appeared on the screen, his expression serene yet unnervingly intense. Slowly, he stepped through the screen, his translucent form shimmering as he entered the physical world. Daphne gasped, while Fred stood protectively in front of the group. Velma shone her flashlight on the figure, but it passed through him harmlessly. The ghost gestured toward the projector, as if urging them to uncover its secrets. The group regrouped and examined the map Daphne had found. It revealed secret passageways winding through the theater and converging in a hidden basement. Velma theorized that this was the source of the strange occurrences. Determined to get answers, Fred led the way toward a concealed staircase hidden behind a crumbling wall. Each step down into the basement was met with an increasing sense of dread. The basement was unlike anything they had expected. Mirrors covered the walls, reflecting distorted versions of the group back at them. Film reels hung from the ceiling, their surfaces gleaming as if freshly polished. At the center of the room stood an imposing machine, a bizarre hybrid of a projector and a camera. Velma examined it, her analytical mind piecing together its purpose. This machine wasn't just designed to make movies, she said. It was meant to bring them to life. Before Velma could explain further, the ghost reappeared, now multiplied infinitely in the mirrored surfaces. The group's reflections became distorted, their movements lagging behind reality. Fred instructed Shaggy and Scooby to create a distraction while Velma worked on deactivating the machine. Daphne noticed a hidden camera mounted in the corner, leading her to suspect that someone was orchestrating the chaos. Amid the commotion, Scooby accidentally knocked over a stack of film reels, triggering a hidden switch. A door slid open with a hiss, revealing a smaller chamber filled with old records and equipment. Inside, an elderly man sat trembling, surrounded by stacks of film canisters. He admitted to being the nephew of the original filmmaker, confessing that he had used the machines to create ghostly illusions in an attempt to protect the theater from demolition. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said, his voice shaking. The group returned to the main auditorium, where Fred pieced together the mystery. The ghostly manifestations were the result of the filmmaker's advanced technology, which had been misused to scare off developers. Velma suggested that the theater be preserved as a historical site to honor its unique history. The mayor, who had arrived during the chaos, seemed swayed by their proposal, but the group couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. As they prepared to leave, the lights flickered once more, and the projector whirred to life. The screen displayed a scene that none of them recognized, depicting the group themselves standing in the auditorium. The realization hit them like a wave. They were now part of the story. A shadowy figure loomed behind them on the screen, but when they turned, the room was empty. Following the map, the group discovered another room deep within the theater. This one housed a larger, more complex machine that radiated energy. Velma deduced that it was the true source of the phenomena, designed to create endless stories and trap those who entered its orbit. Fred hesitated, unsure of the consequences of shutting it down, but Daphne convinced him that they had no choice. With Velma's guidance, the group worked together to disable the machine while fending off shadowy creatures that emerged in its defense. When the machine finally powered down, the theater fell silent. As they exited into the night, the cinema's faded marquee flickered to life, displaying a chilling message. "The show never ends." Scooby chuckled nervously, and Fred reassured the group, but they all knew the mystery was far from over. A thick, almost sentient mist enveloped the island, obscuring its mysteries from the outside world. As Mystery Inc.'s boat approached, the outlines of ancient mansions emerged like phantoms, standing guard among twisted, towering trees. The dense forest exuded an ominous energy, setting the perfect stage for their mission, investigating the mysterious disappearances plaguing the island's famous summer festival. Rumors of a werewolf prowling the shadows added a sinister edge. Scooby trembled with every creak of the boat, while Shaggy tried to joke his way out of fear, claiming they could still turn back. Yet, the gang pressed on, duty-bound to uncover the truth. At the dock, the group was greeted by Emma, a local guide whose nervous glances betrayed her unease. She led them through the mist toward the festival's epicenter, where the aftermath of destruction was stark. Daphne crouched by a booth that had been torn apart, noting deep claw marks etched into the wood. Fred spotted massive footprints leading away from the site and disappearing into the forest. Velma, armed with a detailed map of the island, pointed to the northern side, where an unexplored cave seemed to beckon. "That's where we'll find our answers," she declared, and the group agreed to start their search there. As they followed the footprints into the dense forest, the air grew colder, and every step was accompanied by rustling leaves and distant, unidentifiable sounds. Shaggy and Scooby lagged behind, their attention caught by a discarded picnic basket filled with snacks. But their brief moment of joy was shattered by a chilling howl that echoed through the forest, freezing them in place. They raced ahead, nearly knocking Velma and Fred off their feet, their faces pale with terror. The trail led them to a clearing, where the dark entrance of a cave loomed like an open mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Daphne examined deep scratches in the surrounding rocks, while Velma pointed out fragments of fabric snagged on nearby branches. Scooby sniffed the air cautiously and began barking into the void. Fred, always the leader, decided they had no choice but to enter. With flashlights in hand, the gang ventured into the cave, their footsteps echoing ominously in the confined space. The cave was colder and darker than they had anticipated, its damp walls amplifying the sound of dripping water. Velma stopped to examine inscriptions carved into the rock, ancient texts warning of creatures of the night and local legends about shapeshifters. Fred picked up a tuft of fur caught on a jagged rock, while Daphne followed a trail of footprints that vanished abruptly. Shaggy and Scooby stumbled over a pile of bones, letting out simultaneous screams that seemed to awaken something deep within the cave. The group froze, straining to hear any movement in the oppressive silence. Suddenly, a shadow darted past the cave's entrance, sending a wave of panic through the gang. Fred quickly instructed everyone to retreat, fearing an ambush. As they emerged into the forest, Emma was waiting, her face pale with fear. She claimed to have seen a massive creature moving through the trees. Urging them to follow, she led the group to an abandoned mansion perched precariously on a cliff. According to Emma, the mansion's late owner had been obsessed with werewolves, and it might hold crucial clues. The mansion exuded a haunting presence, its cracked windows and sagging roof groaning under the weight of years. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and old portraits seemed to watch them as they moved. Velma found a diary on a table in the foyer, its pages filled with accounts of strange occurrences during full moons. Fred, hearing faint creaks from upstairs, decided they needed to investigate thoroughly despite the oppressive atmosphere. On the second floor, Daphne discovered a locked room. Fred forced the door open, revealing a hidden laboratory filled with documents and strange equipment. The room reeked of chemicals, and Velma identified notes about genetic experiments aimed at recreating mythical creatures. Fred picked up a vial of strange liquid, but before they could inspect it further, a deafening howl pierced the air, shaking the mansion and putting the team on high alert. Rushing to the window, they saw a massive wolf-like creature prowling the garden. Scooby barked frantically, and Shaggy cowered behind him, muttering about hiding. Fred called for immediate action, proposing they set a trap using the tools and information they had found in the mansion. The gang quickly divided tasks, pooling their ingenuity to craft a plan capable of capturing the creature. The trap involved an old projector to distract the creature while Velma rigged cables to activate a makeshift cage. Shaggy, reluctantly, carried pieces of meat to lure the beast, with Scooby acting as the reluctant bait. The tension was palpable as they positioned themselves, waiting for the creature to approach. When it finally appeared, its jerky movements struck Velma as oddly mechanical. As the creature stepped into the trap, the gang sprang into action. The cable snapped into place, and the projector's flickering images disoriented the beast. Fred and Velma approached cautiously, and with one swift motion, they removed a section of its fur, revealing a high-tech mechanical suit. To everyone's shock, Emma confessed to being behind the deception. Her goal, she explained, was to scare away tourists to protect the island from development by a corporation seeking to exploit its resources. Emma further revealed that the disappearances had been staged. Tourists were transported off the island on a secret boat, ensuring they couldn't report what they had witnessed. The gang was stunned by the revelation, but Fred assured Emma that the authorities would be notified. Velma documented the findings to provide evidence for the festival organizers. Back at the festival site, Mystery Inc. explained the events to the organizers, who promised to alert the authorities and take steps to preserve the island's integrity. Daphne suggested that the werewolf legend could become a tourist attraction, drawing visitors while honoring the island's history. Velma, however, cautioned against exploitation, emphasizing the importance of protecting the island's natural beauty. As the gang prepared to depart, a distant howl echoed through the forest, halting their conversation. Scooby immediately dove behind Shaggy, who nervously scanned the treetops. "Not every mystery is meant to be solved," Fred remarked with a knowing smile. Velma cast a glance at the full moon glowing brightly above as their boat pushed away from the dock, leaving the island shrouded in its lingering enigma. As the mist swallowed the island behind them, the gang began discussing their next adventure. Scooby finally relaxed, munching on a snack he had stashed away. Daphne looked back one last time, her gaze lingering as if expecting to see a shadow moving in the trees. Fred turned to the group with a grin. "Another mystery solved," he declared, as the faint sound of Scooby-Doo, "Where are you?" echoed through the night, marking the close of their latest adventure.